know who it is. It's the radioactive pop with Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Poppy.
Welcome.
Do you know who I am?
Who the hell are you?
Who are those guys?
And then there's the other guys.
We're the other guys. We're the guys nobody ever bets on.
Just what is it that you want to do?
We want to get loaded, and we want to have a good time.
Okay, let's party.
Let me talk to you. I'm building an alliance.
Will you join us?
It's showtime.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
If you're not here, you missing out, because this show...
Ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome. All right, listen up.
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for.
Now here's the other Alliance guys, Tim, Jeremy, and Dave.
Hey everybody, welcome. Hello. I am the lone Alliance guy of the other Alliance guys. Jeremy's stuck at work, so we'll go for a little while, go over some things that happened this past weekend, this past week, what's coming up. Hopefully Jeremy will be able to join us a little later on, but you're stuck with me, so we're just going to go over some things first. Things that are coming up in the near future. If you're an MLW fan, War Chamber 2 will be on YouTube coming up on the 20th, which is a Saturday. It's, I believe, at 10 p.m. Eastern. So if you're wanting to watch some free, good wrestling, MLW War Chamber 2 be coming up on April 20th. Also, want to send out a congrats to Mr. Alonzo, Mr. NWA. If you didn't see Power yesterday or haven't watched it yet today, it's a spoiler for you. He's the new junior heavyweight champion, so congrats to Mr. Alonzo, Mr. NWA. Also a shout out to the guy he took the belt from, Colby Carino. Did one hell of a job holding that junior heavyweight title. So congrats to the old champion. Let's see what's in store for Colby. And congrats to the new champion, Mr. NWA, Joe Alonzo. Also, speaking of the NWA, Crockett Cup 2024, coming up in just over a month. It'll be May 18th in Forney, Texas, in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area. It's only one night this year, so I'm not sure what they're planning on doing, but we'll see where it goes. Possibly they do have tapings coming up this weekend, so they may end up doing some pre-qualifying matches to knock it down to maybe 8 teams. If they go with 16 teams, it'll knock it down in half at the taping. So we'll see what they have in store. But right now, Hard Times is what's on Power on the CW. So we'll go with that. One of the big things that happened this weekend, besides the finishing of the story and WWE WrestleMania, was Bloodsport. If you're unfamiliar with Bloodsport, it is as close to grappling and real combat as you can get. It is a worked shoot. Josh Barnett and Bloodsport with GCW. They put it on. It was one hell of an event. If you're able to watch it, there are ways that you can watch it. I'm not going to say where or when you can go online, but just Google Bloodsport 10 and it's there. It's to be found. It was, in my opinion, one of their better that they've put on. So it's one of these things of, it's like MLW. It has a lot going for it, but it can be, if you're used to sport, it may not be your even it being a worked shoot, it has that realistic feel to it. Myself, I give it a 7 out of 10 ratings wise. It was, in my opinion, one of the better ones over the past 2 to 3 years. We'll go over some of the matches. Now, the rules for Bloodsport, the matches are stopped by either a knockout, a submission, or by referee stoppage. Now, looking over this, let's see here. It looks like there were 10 matches building up to a tournament final, which was the 11th, and then Josh Barnett was the 12th match. So 12 matches overall. That was a full night. Plus, Shayna Baszler from the WWE was able to partake in it. She ended up going up against Masha Slamovich from TNA Impact. Overall, this was one of the better ones, like I said, over the last couple years. There were only a few matches that, in my opinion, they didn't go sideways. They just weren't full in telling a story. But we'll start off with Akira. Akira Way from MLW wrestled the Savage Gentleman, Victor Benjamin. Now, Akira was way over. The fans booed Benjamin. Benjamin ended up getting the win. Victor Benjamin and his wife, who is Lady Frost, they participated in this. Victor Benjamin is a former MMA fighter, so he was going back to his roots. I'd give this probably 3.5 stars out of 5. This was just a good match. It got the crowd going. It was the right match to start things off. And in my opinion, a loss didn't hurt Akira. It just made people love him as the underdog going forward. So next year, if and when, and I believe he will be in Bloodsport, he'll have even more of a following. So Victor Benjamin was the winner in the first match. The second match was Speedball Mike Bailey from TNA Impact. Lots of back and forth action. Him and Nick Nemeth, the former Dolph Ziggler. And Nemeth was playing the heel all the way. He ended up getting the win in just around 6 minutes. It was around a 3 minute or around 3 minutes. They were going back and forth. A lot of action in the ring, if I can call it a ring. If you haven't watched Bloodsport, it is in a wrestling ring, but there are no ring ropes. There are no turnbuckles. So it's ground and pound, and if you go out of the ring, the ref brings you back in to finish things up. So as a second match, this kept the story going of Nick Nemeth going out after leaving the WWE and making a name for himself. Third, we had an opening round match in the women's tournament. This was going to be a 4-way match, but they ended up doing 2 qualifying matches when Shanna decided to set foot in the Bloodsport, and Masha Slamovich became her opponent. So this was Lindsay Snow and Lady Frost, who have teamed together out on the independents. They ended up going against each other. A lot of ground and pound. Lindsay Snow was very aggressive. She slammed her way through the match. A lot of takedowns, a lot of big strikes. She got a quick knee bar, and that knee bar ended up catching Lady Frost, and Lindsay Snow got the win off of that. She advances to the women's tournament finals. And Lindsay Snow is 3-1 in her 4 times battling in Bloodsport. Then we had the second opening round of the women's tournament. Maria Shafir against the kick demon Janai Kai, who is currently in MLW and their featherweight champion. A lot of kicks, a head kick. Shafir went down. Kai couldn't put her away. Thrust kick. Janai Kai was just that far away, just barely missing a pin. She got a follow-up attack. Shafir reversed it, got a takedown, locked in the mother's milk for the win. Shafir got her to the ground and was able to quickly submit her with that mother's milk. Shafir is now 4-0 and in just over 4 minutes advances to the Bloodsport Women's Tournament Finals. Her and Lindsay Snow will do battle to see who the women's champion is. The fifth match of the night was Matt Matakowski taking on Charlie Dempsey. Now, if you don't know who Charlie Dempsey is, that is that's his work name. His shoot name, he is a Regal. He is the son of William Regal. They noted a lot of back and forth. Makowski was facing an opponent he hadn't prepared for. He was one of the late ads. He's currently wrestling in NXT, so he was another WWE attendee that was added to the Bloodsport. So that forbidden door is not so forbidden. I'm liking what I'm seeing with both of these guys. A lot of back and forth. He ended up getting a double wrist lock. And with this, Makowski ended up tapping. So Charlie Dempsey, your winner, who, seeing who his father is, William Regal, is very shoot style. And I'd love to see more of this style applied to some of the matches in NXT as he goes forward. And I'm hoping that they're actually able to use some of these outside experiences. We'll see if they make mention of Shanna and Charlie Dempsey being in Bloodsport over the weekend, if it makes broadcast of any WWE events that they are wrestling on. So we'll see what goes there. Like I said, Dempsey is a very good technician in the ring. And I mean, he's following in his dad's footsteps. I'm looking for him to move up, since they are now in the WWE referring to it as pro wrestling. But let him get his footing in NXT. You don't want to bring him up too soon. And I'd love to see his father actually manage him down the line. But we'll see what happens. The sixth match was a matchup between tag partners. Fuminari and Numara. It was a great hard-hitting match back and forth. Since they are tag team partners, they both came out to the same music. Lots of good groundwork. Headbutts, kicks. Your winner was Nomura in just under 8 minutes. This was good technicians in the ring, and them being tag partners, they were able to almost anticipate what the next move was. So this is the kind of match that I like watching. And if you're not into either All Japan or New Japan wrestling or Japanese shoot style wrestling, give this a look online. This is the way wrestling can be done, and in certain circumstances should be done. Now, your next match, seventh match of the night, Lou Nixon and Eric Hammer. Eric Hammer's 4-0 in Bloodsport, while Lou Nixon is a newcomer. A lot of back and forth hitting. Deadlift German wrenched on Nixon's arm. And boom, it was over in 4.5 minutes. The ref called for the bell, even though Hammer ended up losing his grip. They tried to cover and saying Nixon's arm popped out, but the finish appeared not to go the way they wanted, but they just went with it and rolled with it. And for that, I mean, you can't, what people are watching, you really can't lie to the people there, it being live. They're unable to edit on the fly. So this, I only gave it 2 out of 5 stars, with this being one of the mishaps of the night. But overall, it was a very good match. Excuse me, with the exception of the little flub. Your next match was Minoru Suzuki against Royce Isaacs. Now they ended up on the apron. Suzuki got an arm bar. They battled for position back into the ring. Got a leg submission. Isaacs got a leg submission on Suzuki. Suzuki managed to free himself. They backed off of each other before they went back at it. Suzuki got a choke, went for the Gotch-style pile driver. And with that, the ref dove in and called for the bell. This is a good mix of styles, and seeing that Royce also works New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong in California, this could work into, hey, give me another shot. But this is one of those strong things that while these wrestlers are able to be over here, use them to your advantage. And before he ends up leaving because of his passport time is up, maybe they can repay the favor to Royce in New Japan Strong before he does leave. But this was a very good match, but Suzuki did play the heel in this match, and he blew off a handshake after the match. So we'll see where this goes. But in just over 6 minutes, Minoru Suzuki gets the win. The next match is Timothy Thatcher versus Axel Tischer. Thatcher also does some wrestling in MLW as well. So if you want to see some of his matches, you can go online, go on YouTube and see some of his matches. He's a very good wrestler. A lot of back and forth on the match. Thatcher got a bow and arrow submission at one point, but Tischer ended up escaping and ends up on top of Thatcher. A couple strikes were hit. Thatcher ends up reversing, hits an elbow from the closed mount. They got to their feet. Tischer ends up hitting a brain buster on Thatcher. Took a moment to regroup. Went back after Thatcher, and Thatcher ends up grabbing a Fujiwara armbar, and once you're in the armbar, it was over. So I gave this maybe 3.5 to 3 3/4 stars. This was a very good back and forth match, a lot of striking, and I believe the right man won. And if anything, some of these matches can carry over to some of the other home promotions of these wrestlers. So either the story can be told of I'm getting revenge, or thank you for wrestling me, become almost, I don't know, maybe my teacher. Teach me how to go forward from this point on. So your next match is one of the main events. Shayna Baszler, who is there with her tag team partner from the WWE, Zoe Stark, ends up taking on Masa Slamovich, who was there with Jordan Grace from TNA Impact. A lot of back and forth, early going, kicks in the middle of the ring. Both women traded blows. They went for some chokeholds, tried to set up some cross-arm breakers. but they ended up slipping out of the move. Masha ends up stomping Shanna's head. Baszler managed to escape, get on top, does a reverse, got a rear naked chokehold with the hooks. Slamovich ends up escaping. A lot of back and forth, and these women know what they're doing when they're wrestling, whether it be a work or a shoot. These women know how to make it feel real. Slamovich ends up catching Baszler's arm, hits a pump-handled suplex, grabs a a rear naked chokehold. Baszler ends up escaping, went for an ankle lock. They end up hitting several kicks from her back. Shanna fires back, several kicks to the head, ends up doing a curb stomp to cap it off, and ends up pitting Masha for the 3 count. And Shanna is now 1-0 in Bloodsport in just under 8 minutes. This was one of the highlights of Bloodsport, in my opinion. Like I said, just give it a watch. If you're able to, you can go on Triller, the old Fight TV. They have a 7-day free look at trial period. You can go in and watch some of these matches, or you can go online and find other ways, I'm sure, but at least give it a chance. There's highlights on YouTube even. You can go and check it out. We end up having the women's tournament finals between Marina Shafir and Lindsay Snow. This was a good, hard-hitting match. Snow is looking to win her second tournament in Bloodsport. Lots of good back and forth. Snow ends up gator rolling into a single leg, which looked tremendous. Shafir tries to escape with some blows, but they didn't have much of an effort. Shafir ends up crawling away, gets to her feet, blocks a kick attempt. Snow took her legs out, got her back to the mat. Shafir ends up slamming Snow down. She fell down on her knees. Shafir ends up hitting her with a head kick that sends her out of the ring. And in doing that, the ref calls for the bell. So it's a ref's decision. Just under 8 minutes, Marina Shafir ends up winning the Bloodsport women's tournament. I'd look for this to possibly be a main event next year, to see if Snow can get her revenge, because it wasn't an actual pinfall or submission. It was referee. So we'll see where it goes. This was one of the highlight matches, in my opinion. Both of these last 2 women's matches were very good. The last match was Josh Barnett, who is putting on Bloodsport, former MMA fighter. He's going against Johnny Bloodsport, John Morrison, Johnny TV, whatever. He's had thousands of names. Both of these guys know how to entertain. Excuse me. Bloodsport ends up having his right arm wrapped, so of course Barnett goes after him. Right on the arm in the early going. They go for a half crab. Bloodsport rolls to the apron, asks for a break. Barnett grants. They end up on the mat again. Barnett drags Bloodsport to his feet, dumps him to the mat with a good old-fashioned suplex. He hits Bloodsport right in the face with a spinning heel kick. Then Barnett deadlifts Bloodsport into a gut-wrench bomb and dumps him right on the apron. And this was another one. It wasn't a pinfall or a submission. It was referee stoppage. So this was just over 7 minutes. Josh Barnett with the win. I look for possibly a rematch. Maybe bring in Barnett to ROH and let him do a battle there. Have him best 2 out of 3 match, something like that. But Barnett ends up getting on the mic after the match. Thanks, Bloodsport. then announces that June 22nd at Sumo Hall, they'll present the next event with several notables, including Suzuki and Rampage Jackson. So there's another Bloodsport in Japan. So this is one of those things that if you're able to watch it on pay-per-view, on Triller, give it a shot. If not, it's one of those things that it's not everybody's favorite type of wrestling. It's the more realistic wrestling. So if you don't like the high flips, or if you do like the high flips and the quote unquote choreographed indie type, this may not be for you, but at least give it a shot. Go look online, see if it's something that you may be interested in. If not, let's move on. Now, in looking at what happened this past weekend, Cody finished the story. The Rock walked away with a boatload of money. I was right down the road in Baltimore, and when I was in Philly earlier last week, it was just insane. There's several people I know of that went to WrestleMania 40, but didn't even set foot. They may have watched the matches, but did not each year something that I enjoy WWE. I myself even watched it. To me, it told the stories well, but it was too predictable. But it's one of these things that what happens in and around wherever WrestleMania takes place, if you're into independent wrestling, go. It's one of these things that I really can't explain it. It's something that you can explain what happens at WrestleMania, but to actually experience a WrestleMania moment, whether watching on TV or if you're there live in person, it's even better. It's one of these things that you just have to experience. And independent wrestling is growing. Now, with WWE allowing some of their wrestlers to be on other cards. At Bloodsport, there were several wrestlers that were not on the card, but were in the crowd. I believe Braun Strowman was there. And like I said, Zoe Stark was there. It's one of these things that with the quote unquote Triple H era, if they're able to work with other companies, it's a win-win for everybody. So I'm just saying, give other wrestling a chance, whether you're a WWE or smaller wrestling promotions. If you don't like it, you've lost out on 1, 2, 3 hours at most time. It's you never know what you like until you try it. It's the same thing with food. So we're going to move on from that. But speaking of WWE, word is that Jacob Fatu has been signed to the WWE. So this is one of those things that I'm not sure where they're going with the storyline of the bloodline. But if the bloodline continues, I mean, you still have people that are part of the bloodline or were part of the bloodline. But who knows what's happening with Paul Heyman, what's happening with Roman Reigns, and what's happening with The Rock. If they end up moving out of the storyline, that's one thing. But this bloodline story can continue. I mean, you have the Usos. They're on separate sides. You have Solo, who has paired up with Jimmy. If you bring in Jacob, have him down in NXT, and possibly, I don't know, have the Usos and Solo make a trip down to NXT to welcome him. They end up doing a couple tag matches. He can get his footing under him. The WWE style is very different than MLW, where Jacob Fatu wrestles. So it's one of these things of he needs to get his footing and his bearings and know what the WWE is expecting of him. If you've never seen any of Jacob Fatu's work in the MLW, the guy can move. He's about 5'10", 5'11", and does outstanding work and does moves that a man his size should not be able to do. But it's one of these things of, I'm looking at all the other members of his family that are in the WWE at this time. If Jacob is actually signed to the WWE, Fatu is a name from the past in WWF and WWE. So to move to the future, they may give him a new name to go by. So a name change may be in order. And at this time, the only person down in NXT, after looking over their roster, that I could find that has any real connection to the bloodline is Ava, who is the daughter of The Rock. So she's quote unquote, I guess, like the general manager down in NXT. So if they do bring in Jacob Fatu, whatever his name may be, I'd have him work in NXT as a bodyguard for Ava. He can cut a promo, but start him off as being silent but violent. Have him come in. If you want to talk to the boss lady, you have to talk to me. She's the final boss lady. So it's one of these things. But like I said, if they keep the bloodline story going, it can be dropped down to NXT with the Usos and Solo. Have him pair up with Jay to battle Jimmy and Solo. Now, Fatu is very talented, and in my opinion, can only really help the WWE. He can work almost any style. He makes all his opponents look good. But it's one of his things. He has to learn the WWE style. I would present him as a savage, that if you look back and go, okay, you have Rikishi, you have Umaga, you have the Samoan SWAT team, you have the Samoan Savages, the Tonga Kid, all of these former wrestlers in the WWF and WWE. He is part of the storyline. He is part of the bloodline. He's cousins to the Usos and Solo. He's the son of the Tonga Kid, who is Sam Fatu, was also part of going back in time with the Savages and Paul Heyman's time managing the Savages. So in my opinion, I would have Jacob Fatu maybe show up in the WWE as he's already a cousin. He's part of the bloodline. Have him show up with Ava and ask the three guys that are currently in the bloodline, not knowing where that storyline's going, help them make a story down in NXT. the storyline in WWE has run its course for the time being. It took 2 years for Cody's story to be told. So this was one of those things, this was one of those things that they let the story finish. We'll see where it ends up going from here, but this is one of those things that the storyline can be brought up at almost any time. It's one of those things of just make it make sense. That, in my opinion, that's what I would do. Now, let's see here. Jeremy was going to go over some of the United Wrestling Network matches this past weekend, but Jeremy, unfortunately, is stuck at work. So we're going to call it an abbreviated Other Alliance Guys podcast. Once again, sending out a congrats to Joe Alonzo, the new junior heavyweight champion in the NWA. Also a shout out to former champion Colby Carino. His father, Steve Carino, was inducted into the Independent Wrestlers Hall of Fame this past weekend. MLW Crockett Cup is coming up May 18th, Forney, Texas. It's only one night. Sam Adonis, formerly a member of the Rude Dudes in the NWA, El Rudo down in Mexico. He'll be taking on EC3. Looks like they may have some qualifying matches for Crockett Cup at the tapings coming up this weekend in Tampa. There's only one night for Crockett Cup this year, so maybe just the top 8 teams. We'll see where that goes. But I guess I'm going to call it a day. Hopefully Jeremy will be able to join us next week. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and until next time, we'll see you at the matches.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.